Miller and Semler understood how to make a chase feel visceral. Unlike chase scenes in a city where the speed is signified by buildings speeding by the shot, Broken Hill had none of that. There is only the sky and the road. Having known Dean Semler from his previous work as a cinematographer of a steam train documentary, which looks incredible by the way, the two composed a lot of shots with wide lenses to better show the geography of each scene, changed the frame rate from the typical 24 frames per second to 22 to give it a more frantic feel, and shot a lot of it from low angles to express the immense speeds of these vehicles with the speed of the road. Having shot so low also makes these moments look even more dangerous than it already was. Shots from above focused more on the ground than it did the sky. Shots in the cab and medium and close-ups with actors were actually shot with a wobbling camera, with wind machines while the vehicles were stationary. By always having the car be in motion with the rest of the actual chases, they achieve an extremely strong sense of kineticism. It was generally shot in order, which is atypical for filmmaking, but it helped George Miller and the team keep good track of continuity. This was done before there was video playback and dailies. You can't watch what you've just shot like you can today. You film the shot and you wait for it to be developed and pray for the best. According to Dean Semler, right before the filming of the final chase, there was a mailman who drove past the PAs who were blocking off traffic. But dedicated to his work with unwavering resolve to ensure that mail reached the folks of Broken Hill, nothing and no one was able to stop him. "The mail must go through," he announced. What a legend. Papagallo, the leader of the Northern Tribe, splits off to take the heat off of the tanker that the antagonists assume the gasoline is in. He'll come back later. The tanker itself is fortified by the mechanic, who is very well glammed up and passionately persuaded the tribe to take part on the front lines with the tanker he worked so hard to repair, and also Warrior Woman, who is a badass crossbow user inspired by the Valkyries of Norse mythology that went to inspire other amazing female characters in future films in the franchise. Zeta is also there and resents Max for the death of his friend Nathan earlier in the film. The three of them would make excellent partners working at a bar. Anyone fancy a Molotov cocktail? Finally unchained and unhinged, Wes goes on a rampage of revenge as he jumps from car to car, throwing a grappling hook which rips out the tanker's signature earth cab door. Another thing that gets grapple hooked is Zeta's leg, which actually destroys an entire buggy before he falls off and gets set on fire. If there's a lesson to be learned here, it's to never skip leg day, and also to stay safe from fires. Just like how the same tricks don't work on the good guys, the same logic applies for the bad guys. Readying another Molotov cocktail, the mechanic is shot by Bear Claw Mohawk, who was played by stunt performer Guy Norris. Remember his name. This sets off a chain reaction for the beginning of the end for our beloved tribe members. Double W gets a W on Bear Claw, but is unfortunately countered by Wes's dart gun, which causes her to slowly and painfully bleed out. The mechanic tries his best to pull her back up, but their lives are cut short as they get pulled down and run over by the red XA coupe. Upon witnessing the losses behind the truck, Max takes matters into his own hands and provides a shotgun blast to the face. This causes the coupe to swerve out of control, which wipes out a buggy. During this horrifying miscalculation from George Miller himself for making the obstacles move slightly and having some dust blown up to preserve more continuity, stunt performer Guy Norris lost control after unexpectedly somersaulting across the screen after traveling way faster than he should have been. Due to the speed, the minor changes to the plan, and the lack of visibility, he broke the pin in his femur by clipping the buggy. His femur had already been previously broken, a horrific occurrence on set, but one that we can take notes from. Being Miller's go-to guy and a man with a champion spirit, Norris continued his scenes as the Bear Claw Mohawk, shooting mostly his upper body while his leg rested on some boxes off-camera. He and Miller continued to collaborate on future films like Furiosa and Fury Road, going out with a bang as a performer of the Interceptor crash as his swan song. Beautiful. Still pursuing the tanker, the coupe controlled by the person who still has his face intact gets totally wasted in this dramatic wipeout. After shooting a tire off, this really stupid blue-haired bloke takes his hand and just for some reason tries to touch the speeding tire of an 80,000-pound truck, which results in him and his bike getting sucked into the tanker's vortex of violence. Special effects team members Monty Feigoth, David Hardy, and Steve Courtley designed a complex rig of hooks, counterweights, explosives, cables, and a dummy attached to the bike that would release the bike, pull the cabling out of the shot, and make sure the bike didn't get entangled with the truck. It was shot 4 times until they got what they were looking for. A very smart stunt that sums up the life of a very dumb man. Now, with several marauders and wares on the tanker, things don't look great for Max and the feral boy. With his amazing reaction, Max quickly disposes of 2 bodies with a shotgun blast here and a shotgun blast there. But he's unable to reload in time to fight off Mr. Norris. While Wes is flailing about, Max stomps on the brakes, which sends him flying and smashing these unfortunate tribe hostages that were in front of Humongous's rig into the back of the tanker, exploding the 2 watermelons with wigs that were attached to 2 dummies. Juicy. The feral boy fights off Bearclaw with his bare hands. Papagallo returns to help, only to be executed by Humongous's trident. Contrary to Papagallo's words, it's not over yet. Before a dehydrated Humongous gets a chance to launch his last trident, GC swoops in to save the day. Looks like he really needed a cocktail, but this in turn eliminates our beloved pilot from the rest of the chase. But don't worry about him too much, he's fine, I think. Not much is really known about this stunt, but the gyrocopter, which was originally piloted by Jerry Goodwin, was mostly destroyed, donated to the Mad Max 2 museum, and then painstakingly restored. Check out this moment here. A shot like this was very lucky. While on set, they had to just keep shooting or else they would lose light. The position of the sun was very inconsistent because of this, and in the end, lighting continuity didn't really matter too much when it leads to a golden hour shot like this amidst the dusty carnage. Sometimes things just work out for the best. While the feral kid retrieves the bullets for Max, Wes suddenly appears in front of the truck. While shooting this moment, Emile mentioned he was having too much fun on set and couldn't stop laughing. So Vernon took a sponge of fake blood and splattered it on Emile's arm, which resulted in this genuine reaction. Now, with Wes in front and Humongous forgetting that he had 1 bullet left, just careens into everything, offing himself and Wes in the process. This doesn't really make any sense, but hey, at least it looks awesome. Let's talk about Dennis Williams. He was responsible for delivering the Mack trucks to the set and also for performing this epic collision with the Humongous machine and the death-defying rollover in the finale. To obliterate the Humongous machine, the parts of it were very loosely welded together to ensure that it would scatter easily upon impact. The windscreens and glass were all removed on the truck and replaced with steel mesh to prevent shrapnel from penetrating the cabin and injuring Mr. Williams. He also wore a safety helmet. He went as fast as he could, and the crash went perfectly. Watching all that metal splash across the sky and the road is like watching a beautiful painting come to life. Its violence and art coalesce in an awesome demolition symphony. A severed brake line prevented the truck from further filming, and so the debris was left on the road and the truck was repaired overnight. Kudos to the mechanics who had to work with the pressure and crunch. At the time, none of the stunt drivers had any experience rolling a truck except for Mr. Williams, who had in his real job, because he's a trucker. It was so dangerous that he was instructed to not eat anything 12 hours prior in case he needed to be rushed to the ER if something were to happen. It's a shame because they were serving bacon rolls that day. To have more control of the trailer, it was loaded with tons of sand. An empty trailer meant it would have been too light to behave properly. To minimize the risk of the mount breaking, a steel framework was put behind the cabin, which you can see in this photo. The rollover was so violent and the truck was so heavy, a tire ended up exploding on the dirt, adding to the force and impact of this moment. The safety crew were in a dune buggy, and a helicopter was nearby in case something were to happen, but luckily they weren't needed as things went perfectly. After the stunt was completed, Mr. Williams asked, "Can I have my bacon roll now?" To which the crew replied, "F***, mate, you just had a Big Mac roll." What a precious man. After filming had wrapped, Miller rang up Williams to come over to the studio to watch the rushes for the scene. Neither of them could believe their eyes. They've just caught one of the most frightening and spectacular things on camera, and this scene, along with all the violence preceding it, are now immortalized for the world to witness. Dennis Williams later went to the production offices to get his check, but because the stunt wasn't in the script, he received no money for risking his life. The only thing he got was a Mack Bulldog hood ornament that he took from the truck. He later worked on the sequel Beyond Thunderdome, driving the modified 1965 Mack HD train truck, which he also wasn't properly compensated for. What the hell? We can't stress enough how dangerous these stunts were and how awful it is for him to be treated this way. Because of him, who's just a generous, humble trucker with a heart of gold, we got an iconic, perfect ending to one of the most iconic films ever made. We hope this video gets you the recognition and respect you deserve, Mr. Williams. Cheers. 200 stunts, 80 custom vehicles, and a handful of local Broken Hill residents who did their own stunts were incorporated to put together this epic odyssey of vehicular mayhem and high-octane doomsday combat. To this day, Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior is considered one of the GOATs of cinema, even after the release of Fury Road, which most movie fans also consider a GOAT. Without George Miller, the late film producer and co-creator Byron Kennedy, co-writer Terry Hayes, costume designer Norma Morrisseau, and cinematographer Dean Semler, and its legendary stunt team, with guys like Guy Norris and the late Max Aspin, the real-life Mad Max, the landscape of action cinema, music, video games, fashion, and pop culture in general wouldn't be where it is today. This is why Mad Max 2 matters. If you like what you see here and want to see more, let us know in the comments what you think and what truck scenes you'd like us to examine next. Until next time, drive safely.